welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Anastasia Lavrina. Tonight, we take a closer look at major shift in Europe's security landscape, one where Turkey is becoming a pivotal force in reshaping the continent's defense future. With global tensions escalating and European nations scrambling to bolster their military capabilities, Turkey is stepping in not just as a NATO heavyweight, but as a key defense supplier. One of the most significant developments in this space is Turkey's growing defense collaboration with European partners. A prime example is a newly emerging partnership between Turkish defense firm Baykar, famous for its game-changing Bayraktar drones, and Italy's aerospace giant Leonardo. The two companies are now working together on a project that could redefine Europe's drone warfare capabilities. The partnership aims to develop and supply advanced and manned aerial vehicles to European markets, focusing on next-generation reconnaissance and combat drones. Given Baykar's battlefield-proven expertise, especially in Ukraine, Libya, and Azerbaijan, and Leonardo's deep roots in European defense, these alliances is set to enhance the continent's air power. But this deal is more than just a business move. It reflects Turkey's growing influence in European defense policy making. With the EU seeking cost-effective battle-proven solutions, Turkey is filling the gap left by sluggish European defense production. So what does this mean for NATO, EU-Turkey relations, and the strategic balance of power in Europe? Is this the beginning of a deeper Turkish integration into Europe's defense industry, or will political frictions limit Ankara's role? To help us break this down, we are joined by Valeria Gianotta in Rome, the leading expert on Turkey's role in European security. Former U.S. Ambassador to Azerbaijan Matthew Bryce in Istanbul, and Michael Malouf, former Pentagon security policy analyst based in Washington, D.C. Dear experts, warm welcome to Inside Politics. Thank you so much for your time. And Valeria, let me start with you. So in your article published recently, you highlight Turkey's growing defense role in Europe. Do you see this as a temporary trend or a long-term strategic shift?
The new move, the acquisition by Leonardo of Turkish giant Baykar is marking a new era in terms of bilateral relations, but also in terms of European relations with Turkey. Definitely, Turkey has been proving to be a security provider in the region. We can see along the Russian-Ukrainian war, where Turkey made the difference by supporting Ukraine throughout the selling and purchase of BT-2 Baykar drones, as well as in Libya and in some other scenarios. Definitely nowadays, in this hectic time for Europe, where Europe is showing a sort of fatigue in developing a clear identity in terms of European security and European defense, and there is a huge polarization also within the European Union, because not European member states agree on the same solution, which is provided recently by Ursula von der Leyen. The axis made by Italy and Turkey signs a new chapter in terms of defense and security. Definitely the joint venture between Leonardo and Baykar, it's not a temporary joint venture. The agreement seals a collaboration for the next 10 years, and the production of the Turkish drone will be implemented in Italy, therefore within European market. And throughout this action, also the Turkish drone will be sold basically to other European markets and within eventually the frame of the European Union. Of course, there are some constraints in looking at Turkey as one of the main stakeholders in terms of defense and security for Europe. If we look from the EU 27 bloc, and the main constraint is given by the fact that some European member states still play the veto power against Turkey in terms of accession and also in terms of playing a more vital role within a framework of security and policy of security basically. When I refer to some member states, definitely the first member state who is against the more integrated role of Turkey is Greece and Cyprus due to the pending issue of the Cyprus of island and the Turkish occupation of the northern side of the island.
That's indeed very interesting.
From the Ankara perspective.
Yes, and we will definitely come back to some obstacles for these projects to be implemented in the future. But now, Matthew, could these partnerships shift European attitudes toward Turkey, potentially leading to greater diplomatic or economic engagement with Ankara?
It could, and that shift is already happening, and it has really started to accelerate since the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance gave his remarkable, in the most negative way possible, speech at the Munich Security Conference, which shocked Europeans deeply. I mean, the security elite. When they interpreted Vice President Vance's remarks as meaning that the United States looked at the suppression of far-right political parties or in Germany and elsewhere as a bigger threat to European security than Russia as it attacks Ukraine. So since then, the way has cleared even more for Turkey to enter the European market and to be embraced as as a partner rather than as a problem or as a foe on the defense side. I was just on a call with a client of mine that is a world-class Turkish defense company that is trying to figure out ways to tap into the sentiment and the funding in the European Union at a time when the European Union, some in the European Union, as well as the United Kingdom, are looking at Turkey as a key potential partner. But having said that, as what I was just saying, there is a debate going on in Europe. Yes, the Greeks and the Cypriots have their qualms about working with Turkey. In the past, President Macron of France had been on the other side of the debate and was not, to say the least, was not supportive of working with Turkey at all. And in fact, was back in 2020 when there was tension in the Eastern Mediterranean, Macron was quite aggressive toward Turkey. But that's changing. That's changing because of this urgent need for Europe to increase its own military spending and its defense capabilities at a time when many in Europe feel that they can't count on the United States, which is very painful for me to say, given that I spent my entire career trying to build those relations between the U.S. and our NATO allies as strongly as possible.
Michael, how does Turkey's growing role in European defense affect NATO's strategic balance, and does it challenge traditional U.S. influence over European security?
Well, Turkey has its own agenda. It's very, very clear. It has one foot in the west and one foot in the east. It is looking more toward Eurasia. It has its, as I say, it has its Turkic influences, particularly into Azerbaijan and also into Central Asia. It's trying to rekindle those historical ties. And I see that it's using its defense industry. So it's one of the largest in Europe, frankly, or in the Middle East, as an extension of its foreign policy. So it's producing some very advanced weaponry on its own that is suitable for certain countries such as Ukraine and Azerbaijan that might be very, very interested in trying to establish that relationship and certainly extend it into their regions. But Europe has always been skeptical of Turkey. We've seen that for years and years and years. with Turkey having applied for membership in the EU unsuccessfully and basically has given up. And it has looked more toward the Eurasia realm now. And it's also a very critical corridor, if you will, of energy and what have you, from the east to the west. So it's in addition to overlaying its own agenda, and which may or may not be in conflict with certain other countries, such as Israel and with Russia, and certainly with the United States. As far as integrating Turkish technology and know-how into NATO, I think traditionally they've been reluctant. Italy appears to be one of those exceptions. They always tend to go against the realm. But as long as Europe is looking increasingly toward wanting to create its own European defense system, I think it's going to not, and with France trying to be the lead, I think we're going to see more or less effort and interest in wanting to integrate Turkey and its know-how into the Western defense system, with exceptions, as I said. But clearly, Turkey doesn't mind. It's going to go ahead with its own agenda, and we're seeing that now from the Middle East to Central Asia, as I said, and into North Africa.
Valeria, European defense system and new approach towards Turkey. Does this deal suggest that European nations are now prioritizing security over political disagreements with Turkey, or are there still limitations to Ankara's role?
Well, nowadays Europe is pretty much emotional. I mean, because they feel that they are abandoned by US along with Donald Trump administration and his approach to NATO. So they feel this insecurity that they want to cope with. And definitely it comes to the table, the role of Turkey. But as I mentioned before, Turkey membership within a structured process of integration within the European Union in terms of security and defense definitely has some constraint. I mean, due to the veto of some European member states, but also due to some pending issues and conditions that Ankara itself put on the table. For example, the modernization of the update of the customs union has been one of the conditions Ankara has pushing forward since a long time. Also, when we look back to the so-called refugee agreement signed with the European Union back in 2016, as a condition of the Turkish effort in hosting the Syrian refugees was also the modernization and update of customs union, something that it did not happen yet. And definitely, I think Ankara nowadays feels in this kind of dominant position as a security provider towards this sort of fragile European Union. Therefore, will put again the condition on the table. Beside the customs union, there is also the pending hot issue of the full membership of Turkey within the European Union. Definitely the negotiation has started back in 2005 and no big improvement have been recorded, unfortunately, so far. Of course, there are also some problems related to the Turkish interpretation of democracy, of the so-called democratic zeal, liberal politics implemented by Ankara. But on the other side, definitely there was a sort of double standard approach by some European member states towards Ankara since the beginning of the negotiation process. And in that time, it was Germany and France. They proposed something else than a full membership to Ankara. So I do believe that in this time, European Union is called to start a genuine brainstorming on what really wants from this Turkey. And Turkey, of course, is ready to provide security to European Union under some adequate conditions. And my esteemed colleague has mentioned before, Ankara nowadays has been adopting a sort of multi-rhythmic diplomacy, so has interests all around the regions and all around the world. Definitely Europe is still a priority, but there are some other opportunities to follow up.
Matthew, how might Turkey's deeper defense integration into Europe impact broader US-EU security coordination?
It's impossible to know that now because the Trump administration's approach to Europe is so untraditional and new and isn't based on the same sort of strategic vision of shared values that has driven NATO's formation and development. If there are ways for transactions to take place that involve Turkish defense companies and United States ones in Europe, I think the Trump administration will love that. Look, the United States defense industry is not at all afraid of competing with Turkey's. What Turkey has done in the last 20 years has been amazing to develop a world-class defense industry that's growing and growing and growing. But compared with the United States defense industry, again, there's no threat to U.S. access to markets. But I would have answered the question totally differently under any other U.S. presidential administration. What I would have said is Washington will think it's great if Turkey can help the other NATO allies strengthen their defense capabilities and then relieve some of the burden on the United States. But now it's very difficult to predict how the Trump administration will react other than to welcome transactions from which U.S. companies can also benefit.
Michael, with Baykar drones gaining prominence, should Washington view Turkey as a racing defense competitor or a crucial ally in strengthening NATO's eastern flank?
I think it depends. It's excuse me. The TB2 is a nice medium range drone. We have far superior drones. We have long-range drones, higher altitude drones. But again, it's good for Turkey's foreign policy, but and military export programs. But we have technology. The U.S. has technologies that far exceed. And of course, Turkey's defense industry still relies very heavily on U.S. Defense industry know-how, technology. And that's one of the benefits of being part of NATO. But in addition, as we've seen under President Erdogan, they have certainly looked eastward in looking to other defense systems, which has created political controversy. The interesting thing politically for President Erdogan is his close ties with President Trump. Trump reveres power. And he has a deep admiration for President Erdogan, and that has become clearer and clearer. So I see the United States doing things more on a bilateral basis with Turkey. I think but at the same time, we'll give Turkey its leeway to do what it wants, particularly if it's compatible with U.S. foreign policy, particularly in Syria. I see potential confrontation, however, between Turkey and Israel occurring. That's looming. In addition to what the transactions that are underway right now, but as far as U.S. relying on Turkey for being bolstering the eastern part of NATO, I don't think it's all that significant. Again, you're going to have that deep-seated hesitation by European countries to want to embrace Turkey full throttle. They may want to do individual programs with them, but certainly for political reasons. And particularly, as the ambassador mentioned, the whole notion of definitions of democracy, they're different. We see it. The Trump administration sees it differently today than what the Europeans are seeing. We're seeing an erosion of what the U.S. interprets democracy to be in terms of elections, as we saw most recently in Romania and what have you. And that's what sparked the criticism by Vance. But given that, and we also see Ukraine today, which is under martial law, yet we talk about it as a democracy. I mean, the conflicts in definitions are so apparent, but never spoken, and yet the EU as a body has kept Turkey out because they haven't fulfilled what the EU perceives to be the Turkey's concept of democracy as such. So again, the conflicts are there, and I don't see how you're going to reconcile that. And I think that has a consequence on the formulation and the conduct and implementation of Turkish policy. And that's why you're seeing Turkey really going more independent and looking more Eurasian. Look, I was in Kazan recently during the BRICS conference, and President Erdogan was welcomed with open arms as a partner to BRICS. I mean, he's opened up that avenue now. So, and he has every intention of expanding his influence into those regions and beyond, and to extend and basically recreate a neo-Ottoman empire. That's basically what is emerging under President Erdogan. So I think we're going to see I don't see anything going to be resolved. I think it's going to be the conflicts and continuous conflicts for some time, and Turkey will continue to undertake its own independent policy as a consequence.
Valeria, Baikar's partnership with Italian Leonardo marks a significant move. So what do you think motivated Italy to collaborate with Turkey rather than relying on EU-based defense firms?
You know, the partnership between Baikar and Leonardo comes after a partnership, actually the acquisition by Baikar of Piaggio Aerospace, which has been one of the leading aviation company for Italy and also in Europe. And these both these two joint ventures basically seal a new era in terms of bilateral relations between Italy and Turkey. But it's not just, according to my point of view, an industrial relations, industrial joint ventures. It is something more related to the integration of regional system. Basically, Italy plays the pivoting role in terms of integrating Turkey within Europe and European market, while Turkey basically offers opportunity to further integrating Italy and therefore Europe within those regions where Turkey is playing already a dominant, a crucial role. For example, the enlarged Mediterranean, Africa. And when we look at Africa, this is becoming a very important region for Italy under Giorgia Meloni government, under the so-called Mattei Plan for Africa, where Italy is just following and trying to pushing towards further collaboration with some African countries intended as limiting the irregular migration and fostering economic opportunities both for Italy, Europe, and also for the African countries as well. Definitely in this bilateral relationship, the leader-to-leader diplomacy plays an important role. Between President Erdogan and Giorgia Meloni, there is a very cordial and warm relationship, due also not just on personal sympathy, but also to the same approach to politics. Basically, a very pragmatic approach, and I would like to say a sort of transactional approach to some issues related to international dossier. And I think both of them definitely comes from a very conservative old school of politics. Therefore, along this pragmatism and this opportunism, as well as commonality of values, they get along very well. But I do believe that by playing further, investing further in these axes, in these solid synergies, which is already existing as well in terms of economy. I mean, Italy is one of the main economic partners to Turkey. Already, the business sealed more than $32 billion in recent years. I mean, there are more rooms of opportunities for further integrating the system and also to further consolidating the axis, and also to support basically the Turkish stances within the European framework, which is something that Italy has already done in the past. So if I look at to the European perspective, I would say basically a more solid cooperation and further cooperation in terms of industrial cooperation, but also in terms of integration of political opportunities between Italy and Turkey.
So, Matthew, how does Turkey's expanding defense ties with Europe compare with its recent efforts to strengthen defense diplomacy in regions like Africa or the Middle East?
It's totally complementary, as Valeria was saying, right? I mean, Meloni has interest in Italy expanding its security footprint in Africa, and that has been also a priority of Turkey for quite some time. I mean, since really the beginning of the Erdogan days. And, you know, in Libya, for example, I mean, the governments of Turkey and Italy have been on the same side, supporting the UN-recognized government of Premier Dbeibeh. So I think there's complementarity, and I think it's great that it's not just political calculations that are driving, in this case, Italy and Turkey together, but it's also business interests and efficiencies that reflect that, as I was saying before, that Turkey now has absolutely world-class defense industries. And I think back to my time in the early 2000s when I was on the National Security Council staff at the White House, and Ankara was really eager, even desperate, to get access to some U.S. drone technologies. Michael will remember, I mean, well, it's still out there, the Reaper drone, which was the only one of its type in the world, which is able to, you know, not only detect, but to target, targets. And the United States was very hesitant to share the information and access to that platform. And now, not only does Turkey have its own, it's going to provide them, hopefully, to NATO allies in Europe, and actually already does to several NATO allies. So it's a great success story, and the complementarity of the rest of Europe's growing national security needs and Turkey's defense capabilities partnering with great companies like Leonardo is a good news story all around.
And Michael, my last question to you. What does this deal mean for the Pentagon's long-term security strategy in Europe? Any particular consequences taken into account your back experience?
I think, well, during my time at the Pentagon, we had excellent relationships with Turkey, and and then things changed. But overall, I see a much more independent role of Turkey in the future. I think there will be continued defense cooperation. I doubt that there will be a rejuvenation of the F-35 program, simply because the aircraft itself has serious issues. But Turkey, I think, is moving along, and it will use that technology and try to maintain its close ties with the U.S. defense industry as much as possible. I don't see much change there, and I see less of Donald Trump using a political hammer against Turkey at this point, as long as Turkey's foreign policy is conducive to U.S. interests as we're going along. And again, power respects power, and I think that in the case of Donald Trump, and you're going to, and I think that that relationship will continue and will thrive under Donald Trump and President Erdogan.
Well, dear experts, thank you so much for joining our discussion today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So it seems that Turkey's growing defense footprint in Europe is reshaping alliances, challenging old power structures, and raising big questions about the future of NATO, EU security, and the US influence. As this partnership unfolds, one thing is clear: Ankara is no longer just a regional player. Well, dear viewer, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm Anastasia Lavrina. You have been watching Inside Politics. See you soon.